What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Tonight in Haddonfield, presented by Fandom Empire. Big thanks to our sponsors. Without you guys, we would not be here. Storytime Spectacular, Backtrack Cinema, Colic Nation, Matt and Chris, and I believe we have a couple more coming on board, which we will debut next week, hopefully. We have a roundtable for tonight because we got a lot to talk about. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime. We're both tired, as usual. Mr. Dean Renner, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, everybody? Like I was mentioning earlier, I had a crazy long weekend, so I'm still sort of in recovery mode. But resting up, finally, able to relax and sit here and talk some movies and updates and everything else in the world of fandom with you guys. So I'm excited for that because I can finally just sit and enjoy the combo.
Also joining us tonight, he is my co-host over at the Legacy of Star Wars. We have a big night tomorrow, and he's actually going to be a co-host on the Legacy of Westeros for the next several weeks as well. It's Randy. What's going on, buddy?
Not a whole lot. Just typical Monday for me. Just the emails are out of control, but you know what? I survived the day. I'm here. I'm ready to go. It's going to be my first time really getting to talk some Halloween, so I'm pretty excited for that.
And joining us for the first time ever live, anyways, he's usually a mod in our chat, and he's a big member of our staff that handles the Legacy of Halloween. It's Freddie, man, thanks for joining us, and what's going on with you, dude?
I'm good, man. How are you? Thank you for having me on the show, man. It's awesome.
Thanks for making yourself available for it. Can't wait to dive into everything.
Thank you.
So right off the top, I mentioned content tomorrow night, probably around 10 p.m. Eastern, I think, because I think tomorrow's episode's 43 minutes or something. We have the Legacy of Star Wars, and we'll be reviewing episode 3 of Star Wars, The Acolyte. And then this coming Sunday on the Fandom Empire channel, Zach and I will have a immediate reaction to the House of the Dragon premiere. I don't know if anybody's seen the marketing that's going on today. It's absolutely crazy. But then on Monday, we'll be over on our Legacy of Westeros channel with Randy, myself, and some others, giving a more detailed breakdown of the premiere. But as we get ready to dive into everything that we're talking about tonight, and there is a lot to talk about, a lot has been happening, and I know we had to push the show a couple of times, but first thing I want to bring up came to my attention because I'm a subscriber to Audible. I had been doing a lot of driving prior to that medical event, but so audiobooks are like big for me, and I like high level production ones. And I found out that they're doing a direct novel sequel to Batman '89, and actually one of my favorite authors, very popular Star Wars author, John Jackson Miller, is going to be doing it. Now, I realize that it's not a movie, and I'm sure everybody would love a movie of it, but where's your guys' excitement level on a Batman '89 sequel in novel and audiobook format? You know, obviously many decades later. I'll start with you, Dean.
I love '89. '89's incredible. For me, probably easily one of the best, if not the best, movie adaptation of a Batman story. So, I'm looking forward to it. An Audible audio book definitely helps me because I do a lot of driving myself. So being able to throw that on and listen to that and see what kind of, story they develop and expand on, branching off from '89. Looking forward to it. Curious to see what direction they go. And I think the only detail that I can remember off the top of my head at the moment would be, I think it picks up basically after the death of the Joker. I think that's what I remember. So yeah, moving forward from that, as much as I love Returns, I think Returns is underrated, but I love Returns as a sequel, and I think that's a good pickup point from after '89. But let's give them a shot and see what they do with this novelization.
How about you, Freddie? Are you a Batman guy, and does a novel sequel to the '89 film interest you at all? I know some people they hear novel or audiobook and they're like, no thanks.
Well, I'm not the biggest '89 Batman fan, but I respect what it did, and the way it looks is just fantastic. And I'm down for a novel sequel.
I fall in the same boat as you, man. People probably wouldn't be impressed with how far 89's down my list in terms of favorite Batman flicks.
Yeah.
It's probably fifth for me, which again, some people might find that insulting, but it's not meant to be.
Blasphemous.
I think there's a lot of good Batman films. I think the Nolan trilogy is great, and I fell in love with the Matt Reeves flick. So, Randy, how about you, man? Batman '89 sequel done by, frankly, a legendary Star Wars author.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Granted, I'm actually old enough to remember going to the theaters to see that Batman. So the idea of it picking up right after, or not right after, but soon after the death of the Joker, that's definitely a time period they didn't really get a chance to explore. So I'm really excited to see where they can take it, and if they can just kind of build on, the Michael Keaton Batman a little bit more than what we got. And it's exciting to think about that they're willing to do this now, because you never know. It could end up being adapted into animation, because we know that at least Warner Brothers does decent DC animation. So that's something we could see down the road. It could come to life still.
I'd like to see more of this, frankly, with movies that, people long for movies that probably will never get a sequel, especially in today's state of Hollywood. Budgets are being cut and projects are being cut, and obviously the pandemic slaughtered movie theaters and less so studios, but they certainly act like they're slaughtered. But I'm sure you guys could think of a 1,000 movies that probably are never going to get a sequel, but it'd be cool to see some sort of novel of, like, for example, let's dive into Halloween for a second. People talk all the time about, well, I want a new sequel to Halloween 4, a proper one that's handled properly. And to me, unless you get, like what the Womp Stomp guys did with Never Hike Alone and Never Hike in the Snow and all that, you might get someone that tackles a project like that and brings in a Danielle Harris for, a significant amount of money, and you do something. But I think it's far more likely you get someone to go and write a book about a different type of sequel to it. And I know that's an avenue that Trancas is pursuing more, with just different licensed material with the franchise. But bringing it back to the Batman '89 novel sequel, I'm definitely going to get the audiobook, and I'm going to give it a try. I think John Jackson Miller is a tremendous talent.
Nice. Yeah. Like I said, I'm open to it. So, do we know when is that coming? Like, how soon?
October.
Okay.
I believe it's October.
Yeah, so they're a few months out. Not, Jesus Christ, we're midway through June. October's like 4 months away.
That's scary.
Let's not think about that right now.
I know, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it'll be here sooner than later. But yeah, like I said, I'm open to it. Curious to see where they take it.
I'm trying to remember the title here. I'm just punching it into Audible, because it'd be nice to actually be like, hey, this is the title. Batman Resurrection.
Oh God. Oh man.
Is the title.
Oh. Okay.
If you're listening to the audiobook, it's 11 hours long, at least at its current edit. That could change. And the release date is October the 15th.
Okay.
And you can pre-order today on Audible. So.
Oh, nice. Let's hope that Resurrection name isn't tainted.
I was about to say, with every sequel out there that has Resurrection attached to it, that's some barn burners there, man.
What's going on, Mr. Bish? Mike Bish will actually be making his return to the channel. It'd be nice to have him on this show whenever we can, but he's going to be doing the, I think it would be the episode 2 review, and actually it won't be this channel, it'll be Legacy of Westeros, of House of the Dragon. So happy to have you back, man, in some level. Changing gears slightly, but staying with Batman. There's a whole lot of conflicting reports out there today with what's going on with the Batman. And they range from, it could be canceled, the sequel. And I'll say this, I wouldn't rule that one out, because James Gunn seems to be putting his hand into too many pots, and it's honestly kind of pissing me off a little bit what he's doing with DC. I'm going to give projects a chance to come out before judging it, but focus on getting one project right before you focus on 10 other ones. Is where I fall. And then there was a report that the Batman second and third, or I guess the Batman 2 and 3, whatever they end up being called, would be filmed at the same time. And I also wouldn't rule that one out depending on when they're going to start filming. Just in terms of filming schedules, Robert Pattinson's in high demand. So there's certainly the possibility that he has so many other projects lined up that they might be waiting another 4 or 5 years before another sequel. And I don't think they want to do that. It's a long time to wait in today's industry. But then Jeff Snyder, who in my opinion is the most reliable Hollywood insider out there, came out and said, yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of misinformation about the Batman today. Can I just ask everybody to breathe and give Matt Reeves some time, because what's out there is not true. So you have 3 different things now. I'm going to choose to believe Jeff Snyder because he's never done this channel wrong on reports that we've run.
Yeah.
But everyone can be wrong. We've been wrong before. So I don't know where it falls, but I love that first movie. And it would be utterly tragic if there's not a sequel to it. Yet at the same time, you might be able to spit it off as, consider how that movie ends. Catwoman goes off wherever and Batman sort of looked at it in a new light. It could serve well as just a standalone thing. It's not what I want, but if they never do another one, the one they did's pretty fucking good. Dean, where do you fall on all of this?
Well, where to begin? I guess I'll start with 2 and 3 filming at the same time. I think I mentioned it earlier today, but I think it's a little ambitious. But it's kind of a trend that's happening. Strangers chapters 1, 2, and 3 were all done at the same time. We'll see how that unfolds. So I would like to see them probably take their time. If they're going to do a sequel, take your time and focus on that. Get that one right. And if you want to start adding ideas, after the fact to, continue and start writing part 3, I would go that route. As Sean mentioned, the first one ends on a fairly open note, but I think it would serve fine as a standalone. So, if it doesn't get a sequel, so be it. I'm happy with the first one. But yeah, dipping your hand into too many things at once becomes overwhelming. So take your time and focus. Don't bite off more than you can chew.
Freddie, where do you fall on this, man? Were you a fan of the Batman? Do you care if they do another sequel? Would it be tragic if they don't?
At first, I really didn't care for the Batman. I'm not a big fan of Robert Pattinson, but after watching it, holy hell, I'm excited for the sequel. Yeah. And I agree with Dean. They should really take their time with it. Don't rush it.
Mm-hmm.
That's our motto on this channel.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Don't rush things.
Yeah, don't rush it, because okay. So I did like the first Strangers, the chapter 1,
mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I just don't know about them doing it back to back. It seems a little too ambitious, like Dean said, and I don't know. We'll see. I'm not a big fan of back to back filming. That's all I'll say.
There's a bunch of examples of movies that have done it that probably should not have done it.
I mean, you could look at Scream. As soon as they were done with that one, the second one was already going.
Yeah.
So,
it being Dean's favorite film franchise, I gotta say, I actually think Scream 1 and 2, even though they didn't necessarily intend to film them back to back, as close as it is, you might as well consider it that way. I think that's one of the better examples of them succeeding. Yeah. And even though I'm not a big Back to the Future 3 fan, sorry guys, but
that's my favorite. I love it.
Yeah. Great, awesome. Love diversity and opinion. I think that's probably the other one, right? Like, I think You know, you look at 2 and 3, but they're very different movies. Like they might happen
Yeah.
one after another, but they're very, very different movies. And I think that's what's gonna matter here with the Batman. Like, are you gonna film 2 and then go do 3, and it's like, is it gonna be like The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, where there's some connective tissue there with the Harvey Dent stuff? Would have been more connective tissue if Heath Ledger hadn't passed away. But ultimately they went in a different direction. I love The Dark Knight Rises. I know a lot of people that have been on this channel before don't like that movie. But they're very different movies. I think a lot of people would argue that The Dark Knight Rises feels more like a sequel to Batman Begins than it does The Dark Knight. So if you have like this 5 or 6 hour story that you're going to cut and make 2 films out of, then hey, it might make sense to do it back to back. But if you're doing 2 completely different films, don't do it. You're getting yourself in trouble. Randy, what about you, man? Can you think of any back to backs that you like? Or where do you fall on this Batman stuff?
Well, as far as the Batman goes, I know when I first saw the first one, I was a little skeptical at first, but sitting down and watching it, and had that feel. It felt like Batman. You know, like when you sit there and you're like, this is what it should be. Like when we watch a Star Wars movie, this is what Star Wars should feel like. The Batman is exactly how it felt like. It should have felt like Batman. It felt like Batman. We had got a great, a detective story, which we really didn't get a whole lot of with a lot of the other Batman movies. So, and then, when they get the sequel greenlit, there's so many directions they can go. I'd rather them take the time and get it right. I know we've talked about this with video games too. It's like, don't rush the product because it's just not going to be the same quality as before. And I feel like Reeves just cared so much about the source material that he really crafted a great movie. And I think he's going to do it again. We just can't worry about trying to say, oh, it's going to be filmed back to back or it's going to be canceled. It's more like, let the dude do his thing. Let him do his job. He's put out so many great movies. I'd rather just him take his time, focus on this, put out just another great movie for the fans, for just film in general. And, it's just kind of how I feel. I just don't, I hate this whole cookie cutter thing of let's just throw something at the wall. Oh, let's just go ahead and put it in production. 3 months. Okay. Put it out. No, I've seen so many movies where if they had just taken their time and got little details down and had the settings right and, kind of crisped up the writing some, and there, you could have had some really great movies. And yet sometimes they just fall flat on their face. And of course now, like what you said earlier, the way the movie industry is, I mean, think about it. That Furiosa movie is going to lose a bunch of money, which is surprising because Fury Road was a great movie, but also it barely made back what it needed to make back to be a success. And did anybody really want something on Furiosa? Probably not, but still, I was compelled enough that I wanted to go see it. But now I'm like going, wow, it's a bomb. Technically, it's kind of sad, but unfortunately that's the movie industry we're in now. I think the biggest movie of the year is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine at this point.
Well, right now it's Bad Boys.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that it's doing well. It's getting well received. I haven't gotten a chance to get out and see it yet, but I might do that this week actually.
Tremendous weekend for them,
Yeah.
given the state of the box office right now. It's nice to see a movie that maybe wasn't expected to breathe this much life back into the box office succeed on that level. And kudos. And obviously, there's some stuff surrounding Will Smith that happened last year that the keyboard warriors today will latch on to anything they fucking can. And it probably wasn't the wisest thing for him to do, obviously, but people still go out and support. People will support quality. That's not to say that Furiosa isn't quality, but I also believe you have to have an understanding of what your franchise value and interest is. And I got to tell you, I don't know many people personally who are asking for more Mad Max films. Like, I'm sorry, again, I'm not saying they don't exist, but they're not as prominent as they were at one point in time. And there's a lot of franchises in that. It doesn't mean that you can't make more of them. but I think you need to be conscious of what you spend on them.
Mhm.
Studios are looking for any way possible to spend less money to still produce good films. Sometimes they're able to do it, sometimes they're not. I watched a little bit of Godzilla -1,
Oh yeah.
and the little bit I saw looks fucking spectacular.
That,
It's English dubbed, obviously, but
right.
and that guy, I forget the fella's name, genius, made it for like next to nothing. And
Did he really?
yeah,
Wow. I didn't know that.
I'll search at the budget during the show, but like
Mhm.
people would be blown away by how little was spent on that movie compared to other movies. And we're talking about a movie that is under award consideration, despite it being the genre that it is.
Yeah. I caught bits and pieces of it when I saw it hit Netflix and started it, but I think it was late, so I got like maybe a half an hour into it. But like you mentioned, I saw the quality. I think it's Dolby Atmos. I'm pretty sure it's 4K. So to hear it was so low budget but have that technical aspect to it, that's pretty surprising. And yeah, the first like half hour that I caught, the English dubbing kind of threw me off because I wasn't expecting that. But getting into it, it looks damn good, and I have to go back and finish it.
They made Godzilla -1 for $2 million more
Wow. Oh,
than Blumhouse made Halloween 2018 for. That's $12 million.
12 million.
$12 million dollars. Unheard of
Yeah.
in today's industry. So now you have everybody going, oh, well, how the hell did they do that?
Mhm.
And, Hollywood's a copycat game. There's a reason there's
Yeah.
so many sequels. So we'll see what ends up happening there. In terms of the Batman stuff, I want to see more, but I am worried that James Gunn's going to get in the way, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Let's move on to physical media, though, because I know we got some physical media lovers here.
Mhm.
Allow me to rant for one moment. You guys know where I'm going with this. I'm in a physical media store in Guelph, Ontario yesterday. There's not very many just physical media stores in Canada anymore. I know they're shrinking down in the States as well. This one was called Cinema One. Had a blast looking at it. They had way better like special edition stuff and steel cases than I would have thought you'd see at a store. And then I saw the price of some of the stuff. And I saw the price of the Scream Factory Halloween 6 through 8 box set, which, by the way, wasn't available in Canada for the longest time. And they wanted $249 Canadian plus tax. So for those of you who don't know, that's a commitment of $280 Canadian for that box set that you can order on Amazon.ca, again, so Canadian dollars, for $147. I'm all for paying an extra $20 or $30 if you can afford to.
$83.99 US.
83 on Amazon.com. 37% off too. That might be worth acting on. But yeah, I get it. If you want to support your local physical media store, you should. If you're paying an extra $20, even $30 if you can afford it. But man, you're talking over $100 in difference. That's, sorry for the term, that's financial rape. And it's a prime example why some of these places are going out of business.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on your own physical media stores around you guys? Do you stick to mostly online, or do you try to get out and support the non-Walmart places that struggle to stay open? Dean?
A majority of my stuff comes from online now. Just kind of the nature of the game with Best Buy getting out, Target scaling back, and even Target's prices were a little high for new release when they would, Tuesday would roll around and you would go out and see what was on the shelves. I've mentioned the one FYE that I have near me still has a good selection of like pre-owned, lightly used, and some new release stuff. So I'll go in there every now and then. But with the convenience of online ordering and especially all these boutique labels, I usually throw pre-orders in on most things very early. And I like to, just wake up one day and something's on my doorstep, whether it be a standard release, an import, or, you know, just a collector's edition or something new. And funny enough, speaking the devil, I just got a notification that my immaculate Blu-ray has shipped, and that's new release for tomorrow. So that will show up on my doorstep sometime tomorrow when I get up. So yeah, as much as I liked going to brick and mortar stores, because it's just, you have that option of everything in front of you and you can decide what you want to take home right there on the spot. Ordering online just is the easiest route to go. And with pre-orders, you guarantee your copy. The only thing you have to worry about is damage and, you know, returns if there's any issues. So, you know, it is what it is, like I mentioned before. But I think that's kind of the way it's going. But I would not be surprised to see kind of a return to brick and mortar stores with the way that streaming is kind of going. Streaming is kind of on a downward slope from what I'm hearing. Freddie, how about you? You're my other physical media partner in this.
Oh man. Well, I stick to online mainly now. It's a lot cheap. You can find a lot of sales online, and you
Yeah.
know those little stores don't really have much. And some of the stores actually mark up their titles quite a
Yeah.
bit, like up to $5 to $10. And I mean, it's not as bad as a Halloween set, but
Yeah.
it's still a little more expensive. And there's a store right down the street. My buddy goes to it quite often called Vintage Stock,
Oh yeah.
and they have all kinds of Blu-rays, 4Ks from every boutique label you can think of. And yeah, they have a great selection, but I really don't like. I'd rather just get them online, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think one of the things I struggle with, same with Christmas shopping. I know it's so much easier to do stuff online, but I'm one of those guys that likes to get out and like physically see things and look at things. And if they brought Blockbuster back, it's not going to happen. But guess what?
No.
I'm going. Like,
Yeah.
it'd be fun.
Oh yeah.
You know, they'd go to business when everybody steals all their 4Ks, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm just that kind of guy. But it's way cheaper online.
Yeah, I mean, nothing beats going to the store and picking up, a Blu-ray in your hand. But at the same time, online is just a lot more convenient, a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
100%. Randy, where do you fall on this?
So, a lot of the places, minus, Walmart and Target around here in Richmond, there's really not a whole lot. Obviously, there is I think one FYE that I know of that's about 40 minutes away. But a lot of that stuff's closed down there. Now, there is a place that's not too far from me called Second and Charles.
Yeah.
And yes, there's a lot of used product there, but they get new stuff in too. Some of the pricing is a bit ridiculous, but you never know what gems you can find in there. And it's kind of neat to look through to see what people actually are willing to part with. And some people just don't understand what they have. And you just kind of go, wow, they actually traded this in or this in. And you're just going, but I am not going to spend $80 for that.
Yeah.
So it's it's a crapshoot. It's hit or miss. And, like you guys have all said, online is so much easier sometimes because usually with Amazon Prime Day, sometimes you can get some really good deals on some stuff that most of the time you'd be like, nah, I'm not buying that till it goes on sale.
Yep.
It's a shame that things are going that way, but hey, think about it. Vinyl's made a comeback. Why can't, other types of physical media make a comeback? I mean, hell, I've got my Metallica 72 Seasons vinyl that I'm just got to get a record player for to actually play it on there. But still, the fact that it was available, I was like, I got to get this.
Impromptu, because you mentioned Prime Day and the deals you can get. This I've not shown off yet. This was a 4K set, Scarface.
Nice.
Scarface.
Epic.
This retail was about, I don't know. I think original retail is about $100. Prime Day, $35.99. Got a replica statue in here. It's a PVC statue, but you get Tony Montana. The artwork on the back, the symbols on the side. It was a 3-disc 4K. Came with the 4K restored cut. I think there's different cuts of the movie on it, and the original 1932 Scarface movie was in that set as well. So
Oh,
you
man.
go from $100, retail release to a Prime Day $35 sale. Like, how do you pass up on that?
You don't.
No, exactly.
It's a steal.
Yeah.
I remember one day, this is years ago, many years ago now, I was trying to find this Robert Englund movie, this weird little town. It's almost like a Children of the Corn type thing. I can't remember what the hell it's called. 3,000 Body. I don't know. Something like that. It's just weird, fucked up movie.
Mhm.
But I really wanted to see it, and I couldn't rent it anywhere at the time for streaming. Couldn't find it in physical, like the main physical media stores. I'm in a Shoppers Drug Mart up here. I don't know. I know you guys don't have Shoppers down there, so I don't know what I would compare it to. But your local drugstore, I guess. And they had this like bin of DVDs right by the checkout. So
Mhm.
I'm like looking at it, and sure enough, $3.
Oh,
There's
wow.
the movie I've been looking for.
That's awesome.
Picked it up, and it's probably worth spending $3 on. But boy, Michael Hatta didn't end up paying $20 or $30 for the thing.
Yeah.
It was a doozy, but you can still find stuff.
Mhm.
It's nice when you get those rare finds. Speaking of finding stuff, you won't have to look hard to find our next topic, and that is Mike Flanagan's Hush is coming to physical media. So that's pretty exciting. And this is something people have been clamoring for a long time. There's been a lot of talk about what it may include and what it might not include. Flanagan himself has been pretty blunt about how Netflix handles things.
Mhm.
Didn't like it. One of the reasons he left. But essentially, as Bloody Disgusting has here, Hush is going to be doing a physical media release. And now, since then, we have found out, first of all, if you've never seen this movie, this is Mike Flanagan's Halloween movie.
Mhm.
He has said this. This is what he considers his Halloween movie, which is great because, as we know, he tried to do a script just before the Halloween Return script, and it just wasn't panning out for him. He said that they've been working on it for over a year, and that it's loaded with extras. Apparently, now loaded with extras might not mean loaded with extras on the level that some of us hope for, considering some releases get none now.
Mhm.
But that excites me, man. I'm a huge behind the scenes guy. I love this film. I've still only seen it the one time. And I honestly can't wait for this. This is a day one purchase for me. Where do you guys fall on Mike Flanagan's Hush? And more importantly, in my opinion, not only do we get a physical media release of it, but apparently loaded behind the scenes stuff. Mike, or pardon me, Dean.
Yeah, so I had to seek out a bootleg for this because it was something I desperately wanted to own for my collection. It wasn't available. Netflix kind of holds their titles very close and almost refuses to release them on some kind of physical format, I guess, unless they strike up the right deal, because they've done a couple with Criterion Collection and using Hulu as an example as well. We surprisingly got the Prey release on a 4K, and that was tied up with Disney. So that was surprising to see. When it comes to Hush, finally hearing that, seeing that article, that was a bit of like bright light. So definitely looking forward to that. I will easily retire that bootleg copy. I kind of on the fence of what they're going to do with special features. I'd like to hear that they're doing a lot, but depending on where this comes from, does it come from a boutique or a studio? That kind of is up in the air, I guess, at the moment. If we get a boutique release, I think we should expect a fair to decent amount of special features. If it's a studio, we might get a couple things here and there, and they might call it a day, but that'll help with the cost as well. It won't be as expensive when it comes out because there's not, as much extra content included compared to, like a boutique release.
I think the Flanagan side of this gives it the ability to do the behind the scenes stuff
Mhm.
much easier.
Yeah.
It stars his wife,
Right.
and the villain is someone who's in basically every one of his bloody projects.
Yeah.
And then he has himself and his producers that he works with. It's
Right.
all in-house.
Yeah,
So
that's a good sign.
they have an ability to do stuff that maybe other people don't as easy. What we get, I'm going to keep my expectations in check.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I would assume a lot of it will be retrospective stuff. I don't know how much on-set footage we're going to see. My guess is not much because you can't go back in time. So what they have is probably going to be very little. That being said, though, man, the Doctor Sleep Director's Cut edition, it had a fair amount of extras in it for a. I don't think that was a boutique release of any sort, but like the making of and then the look at how they reconstructed the Overlook Hotel was fantastic. The recasting procedure that they went through was amazing. So Flanagan does have a little bit of experience, even though he's been primarily streaming. The one big release I can think of is Doctor Sleep, and I think they did a pretty good job with it. Freddie, I know you're not the biggest Flanagan guy, man. I can't remember if you've seen Hush or not, but where do you fall on all of
Okay,
it?
I saw it one time and I thought it was okay, but then again, I was half asleep and wasn't paying as much attention. So when the Blu-ray whatever comes out, I'll definitely grab it and give it another watch.
Is it just Blu-ray or is it 4K too? I don't remember.
I'm not sure. Dean, do you know that?
I upgraded to the 4K. That's actually what I'm looking for right now on my shelves. I don't know where.
We meant Hush. Do you know if Hush?
Oh,
4K?
that I don't know yet. That was something I was going to mention. Was I wanted to see if it's going to get a Blu-ray or if it's going to get a 4K. I know the 4K, the entire production of a 4K is costly. So depending on cost and what they want to spend on it and where they think the sales might be, it could be easier to do Blu-ray just to get it out. And then if that does kind of well, we see this pattern where they go from a Blu-ray release to like 8 months to a year later, then they put out a 4K because they've made X amount of money on the profits of the Blu-ray sales. Okay. So we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping for a 4K. I think that movie will really benefit from a 4K. You've got that whole contained but outside atmosphere. You throw an Atmos track on that and you can hear all that. That's going to be like an A1 release.
Okay. All right.
I wonder if they're doing that under their own label. I don't know. I know the information has been kept pretty tight, but I also wonder if Amazon is fronting some money for this with his big Amazon deal that he signed. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. Randy, have you seen Hush? If so, maybe some brief thoughts on the movie, and would you consider picking it up on physical media?
So I can say that I haven't seen it. So that just gives me more reason to give it a watch, just because I'm always looking for something new that's going to, especially horror wise, because sometimes a lot of stuff is so cookie cutter and it's just rehashed stuff that someone else did and did better. And the idea of, even though, the guy is considering this his version of, his Halloween, I'm sure there's things in it that kind of set it apart from other movies that are very similar to it. And,
there's a big one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's piqued my interest enough to where definitely want to make sure I sit down and watch it and really kind of just enjoy it for what it is. At this rate, it's probably going to be one of my Halloween releases where I literally will sit there all month of October. Every single day I will watch at least 1 or 2 horror movies a day, just all the way up to Halloween.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sham. It's appreciated. No worries.
Okay.
I would say this: if you're going to watch Hush for the first time, do it at nighttime, and don't do it with a lot going on. You want your room as quiet as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, noted.
Similar to the advice I'd give to anybody watching The Shining the first time. Different movies, obviously, but I feel like that's the atmosphere you need to watch that movie. Really quickly here, we're not going to dive into this today, but I do want to give him a shout out because he's been very, very gracious with his time on this channel and information he's shared, whether it's stuff that he shouldn't have shared or not. Big shout out to Dustin McNeil. Now, he's not the author behind this book, but it is his label doing the book. And that is, we're getting a Wes Craven book titled The Soul of Wes Craven. The new book dives deeper into Craven's life and career than ever before. I love the cover
Yeah.
It looks fantastic. And Harker Press, if you don't know, is the company that did Taking Shape 1, Taking Shape 2. I believe it's Life of Chucky. I know he gifted Mike Bish and I a book, 2 of those books a couple years ago. I don't know if we'll get our hands on this one since he's not the author of it, but I've already reached out to Dustin, and we're going to have him on. I don't know how soon it'll be because as we talked about today, when he comes on, we want to do one of the Lost Halloween sequels with him at the same time as doing that. And it's a 2.5 hour commitment when he comes on, right? So
Yeah.
we definitely need the time to do it, but we're going to have him on. Might not be a Monday, but he's going to be on to talk about that book. I don't know if the author will be on with him or not, but when we have him on, we'll also do another Lost Halloween sequel. And then Dean and I are also going to cover a Lost Halloween sequel either next week or the week after. We're going to figure out what one we're going to do and go from there. That being said, that brings us to our main event tonight, which is Halloween 2 versus Halloween 4. Sadly, the results did not go to my favor in a rather triumphant fashion for Halloween 2 anyway. I thought it would be closer than this. It was not, fellas. Our little poll that we did that's been allowed to run for way longer than we intended was 74% in favor of Halloween 2 to 26% in favor of Halloween 4. I think you're all fucking crazy. That's just me. But, I thought it would, like, I knew Halloween 2 was going to win. I know that's the popular opinion, but I thought it would be more like 60-40, or a little closer to 50-50. And no, Halloween 2 smashed Halloween 4. And, sucks for me because Halloween 4 is I honestly don't even think it's just my favorite Halloween film. I've said it before on this channel several times. I believe it's the best Halloween film ever made. That's just me. Where do you guys fall on Halloween 2 versus Halloween 4, and why? We'll go around the table. We'll start with Dean, then we'll go to Freddie, then Randy. Take it away, boys.
All right. I've talked, at length about Halloween 2 here. I love how it ties into the original. I love the look of it. I love the score of it. The whole atmosphere, the hospital setting that we talk about all the time. I just think it ticks all the boxes and just hits the nail on the head as a very worthy and pretty great follow-up to the original Halloween. Freddie? Randy?
Oh, hey. Okay. I love everything about Halloween 2, from the mask to the score to the hospital setting, the atmosphere. Everything about that movie I love, and it fits perfectly with the original. There's nothing you could tell me to change my mind. I
That's
love
fair.
everything about it.
I mean, as far as Halloween 2 goes, it's like I don't hate it. For me, 4 is going to be my favorite out of the 2. But when it comes to Halloween 2, the score was good. I liked the claustrophobic feel of the hospital. I did not like the mask. It drove me nuts. I hated the fact that I could see Michael Myers' eyes. Unlike the original, where they had the shadowing effect done so well that it really fit what Loomis talked about when looking into his eyes. That's so when that kind of took me out of it a little bit. I actually rewatched both last week in preparation for this. But I mean, ultimately it's not a bad movie, but it's funny that it ends up being so many people's favorites when John Carpenter himself didn't even want to make this movie.
Yeah.
The fact that he just hated the idea of it. But then we get to 4, and for me, 4 was actually the first Halloween movie I'd ever seen because my dad loved watching horror movies, and of course, being a Gen Xer, in the '80s, my dad's like, "Here, want to watch a horror movie when I'm not even in my teens yet?" So I think that's kind of why I gravitated towards it more. But also, I think some of the kills were a lot more fun to me. Anyway, they were a lot more fun, a little more believable. But again, when you're that age and you're seeing it for the first time, it's really different than as an adult when you're going, this is campy as shit, and I love it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at with that. It's like I think that 4 is always going to hold that edge over 2, even though 2's not bad. But to me, there's a few things they could have done with 2 to make it a little bit better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's because Dick Warlock's head was a little too big for the mask. I think, wasn't it?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
then
why.
Deborah was
Yeah.
the chain smoker.
Mhm.
She had it under her bed or something. And it just got all messy.
Yeah, it his face was a lot wider. That's why it has that kind of
Yeah,
little
yeah.
stretched look.
And another thing about Halloween too that I love is that little side story about the little boy who bit into an apple and
Yeah.
then into a blade.
Mhm.
I wish that they could focus on that more. Hopefully, something like that happens in the TV series. But I really love that scene, especially.
Yeah, kind of diving into like the old oh, what's the term? Like the old um
Urban
oh, it
legends.
escaped me. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
and
Yeah,
that
like
was supposed to be the beginning of what a story pushing the anthology.
okay.
Yeah, the little boy. Like, what else is going on in Haddonfield that we don't
Yeah.
know? You know.
Yeah, if you think about that, how did
Yeah,
he bite into that blade? Yeah.
exactly. Who put it there?
Right. Go ahead, Sean.
I would I would love the anthology route still. I know it's not a popular opinion for a lot of people, but I still think there's fantastic stories that you can tell and you can intertwine Myers a bit in some of them. But it really, from everything we've heard, sounds like that's not the direction they're going with the Halloween series. Obviously, they want to build it out and have more going on,
Yeah,
so it's not going to be as central focused. But sadly, I think the whole Halloween anthology route's probably going to wait still.
Mm.
But I wouldn't be surprised if one day we get it, because eventually
Yeah.
it's going to be the only route you can go, and you can probably go that way for a very affordable amount of money too,
yeah.
Mhm.
which is important. In terms of Halloween 2 versus Halloween 4, Halloween 2's hospital setting is its own character.
Mhm.
I love it. It's fantastic. But when I pit the cast up against one another, to me, there's no better Halloween Donald Pleasance film than Halloween 4, and that includes the original. Donald Pleasance
Ooh,
is the star of Halloween 4. I don't believe Donald Pleasance is the star of the first Halloween movie. It's more of Laurie Strode, and we get, he's in it enough, but how much time did he spend on set again? Wasn't it like 8 days or something like that?
Yeah, a few, if that, maybe 5 or 6.
So actually, it might have been 6. It might have been 6. But yeah, Pleasance's performance in 4 is, it's almost like he took the bull by the horns and said, "This is mine now."
yeah, I'll
But
give it that.
Bo Star is meeker as the sheriff.
Mhm.
Like, wasn't sure what to think. You see a lot of different cops in Halloween movies, but he is some of the breath of that movie, the life of that movie. Meeker is my favorite Halloween sheriff, and I would also argue that Rachel Ellie Cornell is much better in Halloween 4 and gets more to do in Halloween 4 than Jamie Lee Curtis is in Halloween 2. Jamie Lee Curtis also didn't get very much to do in Halloween 2. So
You know what? I'll give the sheriff for some credit because unlike Brackett, he doesn't spend half the movie denying
Right.
Myers, existence or whatever. He gets straight to business and he starts, protecting the town along with Loomis. I love that.
protecting the town.
Protecting the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's one of the things I liked in 4, like watching 2 and then 4, seeing Loomis's almost descent into madness,
Mhm.
like just the way that built up, and that his obsession and his paranoia, and how it just escalated from the first 2 movies to 4. It really was just very well done, and I felt like, Sean, you're right. It really was kind of a Loomis film by the time 4 comes around, because that paranoia, that obsession is so strong. He's just acting the shit out of it the entire movie.
Mhm. I like the progression of the character that you can see. You see from, he's more reserved in the original to he's more alert in the sequel. And then when you get to 4, he's on that pursuit. And I think it really kind of takes off with the ambulance crash. Once that ambulance is flipped over and you have all the bloodshed and he's, how many bodies in the bus, and And once it goes from there to the gas station and then into Haddonfield, you really see the whole progression.
Yeah, it's almost like he's at a point where it's like, why doesn't anyone ever fucking listen to me?
Yeah.
Oh man. And then like the end of the movie too, such a wild twist for H4. Again, I like how H2's hospital setting might be the best setting of any Halloween movie. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. It's very much its own character, and I don't know if anybody remembers being at a hospital in the early 90s, late at night, in the middle of the night, but obviously we're talking early 80s. I'm not that old, but I do remember sometimes in the 92, 93 being in the hospital, 2, 3 in the morning, and you're sort of looking down the hallway being like, where the fuck is everybody? This
Oh,
is
definitely. I worked in hospitals before, and
Oh, wow.
usually the upper floors are empty at night. So
Yeah.
it's believable.
And creepy as shit.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I spent some time in one recently, obviously more time than I would have liked, and I was definitely the get up and walk around type, even at night. And you start to realize they're a little busier now, but there's a couple of times where I'm walking around there going, "Where the fuck is everybody?"
Yeah. Or worried about if any cats are going to jump out from anywhere.
God, can only imagine. I want to add one more point in on Halloween 4. I don't know when the next time we're going to talk about this movie at length is, probably closer to Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
But if there is a example on how to handle exposition, and a lot of movies do it terribly wrong, Halloween 4 fucking nails it in the opening credit sequence. You couldn't possibly, between the text that comes up at the beginning and then the exposition scene with the ambulance and everything, you couldn't catch an audience up better on where you need to be than how they did it.
It's basically, I don't like to throw the word around perfect very often, but it's almost like a perfect recap. Like, it's just enough where it catches everything up in that short period of time, and you get the idea of, okay, like, there's serious shit to worry about.
To recap, though, unfortunately, the winner of what is the best Halloween sequel, a voting thing that started in March and ended now, was Halloween 2 at 74% against Halloween 4. And I don't think we need to run a poll on Halloween 1 versus Halloween 2, because I think the reason we eliminated Halloween 1 is we knew everybody would vote for Halloween 1.
Yeah. So
Halloween 2 is this year's winner of her March Madness tournament that ended in June.
Yeah.
Dean, the floor is yours, sir. I'm going to have to edit something really quickly here so we can all be on this. But what do you have for us this week in show and tell, or show / and share?
Yeah. 2 pieces. So one arrived last week, and the other was this is an older pickup, but ties into what we're going to get into briefly after we get to a short break here after I hit on these. So I will start with a new prop, we'll say, that I was anxiously awaiting and eager to get my hands on. We've talked briefly about Friday the 13th here on this channel, and with my collecting between physical media, props, and collectibles that you guys see here, this was one I had to own. So this is an independent artist piece, courtesy to him. He wanted to remain anonymous, so unfortunately I can't put his name out there, but like I said, this was something I really wanted to get. Had a friend of mine point me in the right direction, and I was able to acquire this, and I finally got my hands on a proper replica of a Jason Lives Part 6 mask for the collection. Very screen accurate. The blank kit with the straps and the mask itself, I believe these were imported from the UK. So this had to be shipped here first to the artist himself, and then he had to do all of the work, the paint, the straps, and everything. So this is painted inside and out. You've got some great dirty, grimy detail on the inside. Screen accurate straps here. My only gripe is this little patch on the back that connects everything. It's not 100% spot on, but I've looked at screenshots from the movie, it's very hard to get the proper shape of this. I'm not going to nitpick. It's such an odd shape in the movie. It looks like a patch of leather. They cut it, they threw it on the back to hold it together, and called it a day. So with, that minor gripe, if you look at the rest, you've got screen accurate details. I'll bring it in closer. He did all of the scratching. He did all of the weathering, everything in front of the mouth. I mean, the guy put in a good solid 3 or 4 straight days of paint work and weathering on this thing. So I couldn't be happier.
Oh man.
Yeah, this is a great piece that I can happily finally add it in my collection, because I've been on the hunt for a proper part 6 for a very long time. So happy to have this here. I wish I could name the guy, and he's had some things go on recently, so he kind of said, feel free to show it off, but kind of keep it on the quiet. But there's that. So that's my brand new Jason Lives Part 6. That'll be going on a mannequin head and somewhere on display very soon. And then let's shift to physical media. We are going to get into our Terminator 2 review shortly. So this was no better time to tie this in than the Terminator 2 4K Steelbook. This was a Best Buy exclusive, Lionsgate, from a couple years ago. I forget the exact date that this came out, but this Steelbook here, you've got great detail and a good shot of Sarah Connor here on the back with, like I said, a Lionsgate Steelbook. This was when they really started shifting gears and going from, not only are we going to do artwork on the slip, but we're going to go all out on the Steelbook. So when you take that cover off and you get this entire endoskeleton on the front, I'm going to try to get this as close to the screen as I can without any kind of, but if you look, you've got details in the eyes. It's a little blurry. Where else? There's images here. I'm going to try to get closer. It's hard to make out, but there's an image in here. You've got, like I said, in the eyes, you've got all of the robotics and the details on the front. They crammed so much color and detail into this Steelbook. And then when you get on the back, you've just got this wild image of the endos on the back in the war. And I think this to date is one of their best Steelbooks that they've done. And it doesn't stop there, because when you get inside, you get a double disc release and you get Miles Dyson. I'll pop the discs out and show them. So you get Arnold on the first disc, if it's showing up or not. You do get Arnold on the first disc. That's the 4K. This is the Blu-ray, and they do the T1000. Try to get that in there. And then I think, yeah, this is the entire scene when he gets shot in the Cyberdyne building and he's basically dying and drops that remote right before the entire building explodes. So this was when Lionsgate really started to shine with their Steelbooks. And my only gripe is that when they did the 4K, they took the 3D cut, and that's the version they gave us on the 4K. So they didn't restore the original cut in 4K. As far as I know, they used the 3D scan. I am hoping that with Terminator coming to 4K for its 40th anniversary this year, that they either reprint this for people to get if they missed out, or if that's going to set them up to do a proper new 4K of this movie. Because as good as this Steelbook is, it is notoriously known as a awful, terrible version of a 4K for a movie. So hopefully they can fix that. It got the Cameron treatment. He went in and digitally changed things, some for the better, some for the worse. But even the removing the film grain, it's pretty much all gone. They DNR'd it. Everybody looks waxy. That's the big term, is it looks too smooth. So they kind of rid of a lot of the detail while minorly changing, like Arnold on the motorcycle. When you could tell it was a stunt actor, they went ahead and then they digitally put Arnold's face on the actor, so that when you're watching it quick, you at least can tell it's Arnold on the bike during that scene where he's chasing down John and the T1000 along the side of the road. So hopefully we get a proper T2 sooner than later. It's not often that it happens, but sometimes you do get one version of a 4K and then it gets passed off to a different studio and it gets what I would call like proper treatment. We saw that with Halloween, came from Lionsgate and then went to Scream Factory. So that's one example of it can happen. But yeah, those are my two pieces for the week. We've got my brand new Part 6 Jason Lives prop replica mask, very screen accurate, and the T2 Lionsgate Best Buy exclusive 4K steelbook. So
well, that's my favorite Jason mask for starters.
Yeah.
Sackhead's pretty close though. I love the Sackhead look.
Yeah.
So that's great. Is there not a T2 4K coming out this year from James Cameron, or am I wrong on that?
The original, we know we're getting that. T2 there's nothing in the grapevine for it, but I see it as an opportunity for them to, like I said, at least re-release this now that this is the exclusivity to Best Buy is gone. We are seeing steelbooks come back out. They're showing up at Walmart. They're showing up. I think Shout Factory did Point Break, and then that was Best Buy exclusive. Sold really fast. Best Buy got out of physical media, and then Scream Factory just reprinted steelbooks and then printed the poster with the artwork of the steel and resold it on their site to get it into more people's hands. So things like that are happening. I really have my fingers crossed for a new proper T2 4K.
So I suppose this year is the 40-year anniversary of the first one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule out them doing one a 35-year anniversary for T2, which would put it at 2027?
A couple years off, yeah. Yeah, that's I always tell people look out for anniversary years. That's when a lot of this stuff comes out.
All right, fellas.
Way to make me feel old with saying Terminator's gonna be 40. Good Lord. By the way, Dean, you guys just got to make your way down here in October.
Yeah. Now we were talking about that. I forgot. Sign. Yeah, I would love to get a CJ Graham signature on that.
And that's a shame, Sean. You couldn't make it down here for October because we got John Carpenter coming. I mean,
that's
Castle.
Huge.
They even got like some people from Halloween 2 coming now, and a couple different Jasons. The Nightmare Weekend here in Richmond is definitely getting bigger, and I'm excited for it.
See, that's a drive I can make, which means I can fill a bin with a whole ton of shit and bring a lot of stuff to get signed. Yeah,
Kane Hodder's coming in July.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and Ken Kersinger too.
Damn. Yeah, it's still a bucket list item for me. I have to get myself to one of the bigger conventions where they have a lot of these guys, so I can reap the benefits.
In 4 years, you can go to Halloween 45 now.
Yeah.
Or 50, my bad.
Age 50.
Halloween 50, yeah.
Age 50 is going to be big and probably the last one. I hope not, but we'll see.
I don't know. Conventions are a big thing for fans, and even though I didn't get to go to the last one, it sounds like they did a really good job with age 45. It's all a matter of how much money Trancas wants to put into it too. They're a big part of the reason this goes off, obviously. So like age 50 will definitely be a thing, but I think a lot of focus will be on a cinematic release for the 50-year anniversary as well. So we'll see what happens there. Anyways, James Cameron's Terminator 2, what some people consider to be one of the greatest blockbusters of all time. I'm not going to chime in too much on this if I'm being upfront. I'm definitely running a little winded here. But I also haven't seen it recently. I tried to. We got 10 minutes in. Let me tell you, the Prime version of this movie, I think it's with the Stars extension or whatever it is fucking terrible. You literally get the green glitches that come up. It looks like a old VCR version that's worn down and just terrible. But I'm going to put T2 on the table for you guys. We'll start off with where does it fall in the franchise in terms of your ranking? And what did you think about the movie? Dean, I know you have a lot to go over. Why don't we start with you and then go to Freddie and then Randy?
All right. It's hard to rank these once you get to your top two because T1 and T2 are like I mentioned back when we did the Terminator review, for me at least, very, very close. You get such a big action movie compared to such a big, like, more sci-fi thriller when comparing 1 and 2. I like the direction it went. So it's, most people put T2 as their top just because of how big of a movie it really is. But nostalgia kind of kicks in for me a little bit with the original. I remember being a very young child watching that. Probably shouldn't have been, but but yeah, the original Terminator, it probably edges it out by like a hair, by an eighth for me. So I'm gonna put T1 over T2 by about that much. Like I said, big action compared to more sci-fi. So that's where that falls for me. And I will keep it short there to move it along because I have a lot to cover here. So Freddie, go ahead, take it away.
Okay, so T2 comes second for me. I still love T1 uh, since I first saw it, back to back with Cobra. So
Oh wow.
yeah, T2. I think it's very different from the first one. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
it's more sci-fi action, and I
Yeah.
think it's one of the best sci-fi action films of all time, next to Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not much negativity I can say about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost perfect, and I don't know what else to say. I think it's 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm gonna definitely, I should say, echo what you guys are saying in the sense of T1's always going to be number one for me, just because of the style of the movie. It's very different, and it's kind of really because just that noir, that neo noir feel to it, and so it was just, even though it's kind of like, there's a monster chasing me, like you could almost say sci-fi slasher to some degree, but no, that'd be oversimplifying it. It was, being as young as I was when I actually saw it, obviously I didn't understand exactly what I was seeing at first, but going into T2, obviously one of the greatest sequels of all time. I'm going to still say that Empire Strikes Back is the greatest sequel of all time, no matter what. But in terms of T2, it's right up there. It's one of those movies where it's a great story, great action. It's some of the best visual effects you're going to see for many, many years to come. It was ahead of its time. And yeah, it's just one of those movies that I don't care if it's on, I'm going to sit down and watch it because I remember going to the theater. My uncle took me to see it in the theaters when it first came out.
Nice.
So seeing it on the big screen is really kind of put it into perspective of like how big of a movie this was for me because as a kid, you're just like, oh, it's a movie. It's a cool movie. There's explosions. But the fact that I can look back and like, I saw this on the big screen, that just holds a lot more weight for me.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, T2 is very clean compared to the first one.
Mm-hmm.
The first one feels like, more neo noir and dark and gritty.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And T2 feels very clean, but it's also PG-13. So yeah,
I forgot
very
about
different.
that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the original's got an R rating, and I forgot T2 was Oh no, T2
very clean.
T2 is an R rating.
Not really. Are you sure?
Yeah. Yep. It's on the back.
So there was enough violence in it that it got the R rating.
My bad.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a PG-13.
I really thought it was
check.
PG-13.
Nowadays, that would have been a PG-13 film.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sean, I'll let you do your thing there for a second. I'll tackle the opening. The opening of this movie, it's very cinematic and way bigger than 84. You got the whole war going on. So I think they cover that in spectacular fashion. Basically I called it the resistance, but you've got, the remaining human race fighting off these, all of these machines. And they cover that, it's dazzling. You just get a ton of special effects straight away, from the lasers to the entire war going on. It's got a little bit of a monologue over it, coming from Sarah Connor, with the opening credits. The score, I noted the score too. It's got a nice score with the monologue, and you get that awesome, like the end shot of the zoom in on the endoskeleton and the flames and all of that. And then you just get T2 and then you get right into the movie. Great way to open it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say this because I'm not going to chime in too much here. The opening sequence is great, and the choice of George Thorogood's "Bad to the Bone."
Mhm.
They try to play with well, maybe the Terminator's bad at the beginning. They don't really tell you that Arnold's good necessarily, but I think if you pick apart his first scene and him going into the bar and stuff, there's enough there to let you know that this isn't the same Terminator as before. Like, in terms of setting the mood and atmosphere, to steal a Dave McRae line, you couldn't have said it better. And also a big standout in this movie. I mean, the cast is great.
Mhm.
But Robert Patrick, in my opinion, does not get enough credit.
No. I'll go into why. He went through immense training to really kind of like evolve that role into what it was. He trained his breathing, like trained himself to keep his eyes open while running. What else did he do? Ton of firearms training. I think he learned how to be ambidextrous because a machine would be ambidextrous, so he can use both hands equally as well. And I know there's more to it. It's kind of getting away from me right now
Oh,
because
yeah.
I covered so much.
The breathing training,
Mhm.
he had to learn how to breathe through his nose
Yeah.
and close his mouth so he looked more like a robot.
Yep. If you watch close, when he's chasing after John Connor on foot from the mall on the dirt bike, his eyes are open like pretty much the majority of the time that he's chasing after that on foot. And I don't know how, like, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you train yourself to do that, but a ton of credit goes to him for what he put himself through. Yeah.
I mean, that's just absolutely amazing. Now I really have to go back and rewatch it just because it's little details like that you don't even think about until you get that behind the scenes stuff, and you're like, wow, he really went all in. But that's one of the reasons why the movie is so good, because all the actors really, obviously believed in the project and put their heart and soul into it. And we see the finished product on screen, and it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, some of the trivia was saying that a lot of his mannerisms came from Michael Myers.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there was definitely horror
Right.
influence. Yeah,
Yes.
horror influence. It's there. I recognize it. Putting it against the first movie, it just, like I've mentioned here before, it just I feel like the sci-fi and the action kind of overshadows the horror aspect a little bit. But I totally get it. You have this just unstoppable machine stalking down, his victim, his prey, and won't stop until he finally, gets his target. So it's very reminiscent of a slasher. So I get it. It's the other stuff kind of just outweighs it for me.
Oh yes.
If you guys want, we can get into some scenes. I picked out, like I said, about 6 standout scenes we can cover and go over. The first one I have is right in the beginning. You get the first meeting of the Terminators in the Galleria hallway. So you've got, for the first time, you've got Arnold as the T-800, versus Robert Patrick as the T-1000. And that's a first of, I think, it's a handful. I think at least 3 confrontations that they have across the entire movie. But you get that first hand-to-hand combat, throwing each other into the walls in the back hallway. Arnold's protecting John. He's taking all the shots to the back. And then that hallway fight breaks into a store. And then, T-1000 just whips him through the glass, storefront into the mall. And you just had that entire first, big confrontation. And it really, I think, sets the bar for what the rest of the movie is going to be.
I mean, 100% agree, just because, it was just, it's one of those, for the first movies where I actually got to see, as a kid, seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger getting tossed around.
Yeah.
That's something you normally don't see in just about any movie. And, obviously we got to see a little bit of it in Predator, but with T2, you're just not used to seeing an action star like that get the shit kicked out of him. And it's kind of fun. I'm not going to lie, but yeah, you're right. It really did set the scene set the tone for what we were going to get throughout the movie. And it just didn't let up from there.
Yeah, it's relentless. And it was, like I said, it set the bar really high. Freddie, any thoughts on that first big confrontation that we see?
Oh, when he takes out that shotgun from those roses, man,
yeah.
man, that was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, he just drops the gold box and he's stepping on the
Yeah.
roses, and that shotgun comes out, and you're like, oh
Oh,
shit, like it's about to kick
yeah.
off.
Yes.
All right, so from there, next I have is the big, like I called it the underpass chase. That's when they get out of the mall, and now you got John on the bike, and he's running from the T-1000, and like I mentioned earlier, he's chasing him on foot first, and then gets into traffic and hijacks that truck. Now you've got them on the chase through the streets of LA, and he's on John's ass in a big rig. John's trying to get away from him on the dirt bike, and it goes off the streets and down into that, like the underpass on the side of the road. He kind of gets up far ahead of him, finally comes to a stop and turns and looks, and then you get that truck coming off the overpass right through the wall and down, and you see his eyes light up, basically that oh shit moment where he knows he's not safe. So he takes off down the underpass further. The truck's still in pursuit. Finally, Arnold tracks them down, and he's shooting at the truck from the side of the road. He gets down in that underpass and finally on the back of the truck, and then zooms his way around and pulls John off that dirt bike. Last second, the bike gets ran over. The truck hits that big concrete pillar, and then we just get that enormous, just huge explosion. And just when you think, they're safe for a second, T-1000 comes walking right out of the flames, and you get your first, I think that's like probably the first big kind of action sequence with, any kind of huge special effects with that explosion. So that was the second one that really stood out for me. Your guys' thoughts? How do you like that chase scene?
That was fantastic.
It's
Pure adrenaline, man. Pure adrenaline right there.
Yeah.
And of course, what does John do? The usual horror movie trope that you should never do: stop and turn around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like in every horror movie, that one person like, don't do it, don't. And yeah, sure enough, he did it, and he almost paid the price. But yeah, that was like that. If anybody was like, if you were like to explain that to somebody, just say pure anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
That's like that. That's my best description. If you want to try to describe anxiety to someone, you explain that scene to them, because of just the sheer adrenaline of it all, and the fact that there were so many close calls.
Yeah.
And then of course, the T-1000 walking out of the damn truck, and you're just going, oh shit, just got real.
Yeah.
He's liquid metal, man, so you can't really destroy him.
Yeah, it's that first moment of like, how do you stop this thing? Like, it really, like I said, it set the bar for the rest of the action sequences.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Sean, anything to add, or you want me to just move it right along?
Just move on, man.
You got it. Let me pull up my notes here. I think the next one I have is the Pescadero escape. So that is when John and Sarah finally show up to the hospital, and they are going to try to break her out. And little do they know, she's already on the escape. So, she deals with that super weird security guard who comes in, licks her face. No idea why. Super fucking weird. But she eventually, what is she? She gets her hands on a paperclip, I think, and picks the lock, gets the strap free, and then gets herself out. And then that leads to kind of her being able to break out of the room, finds that broom closet, snaps off the broom handle, and now she's waiting. And then as that guard comes back around, finally she kind of gets her hands on him. She beats him with a broomstick, gets the keys, and she starts working her way out. So she takes his nightstick. I don't think she doesn't get the gun from him. I think it's from a different guard. I forget, but she gets her hands on a gun at some point. Where are we at here? Then she gets her hands on Dr. Silverman with the syringe and the plumbing, the roto stuff. Yeah, holds him hostage, and then she works her way out. And just when she's almost free, the guards kind of catch up to her and almost get her. And then that's where you get that awesome sequence where the elevator doors open and you get Arnold steps out, and then that look of shock on her face, like she can't believe this thing is back. And the whole rest of that scene unfolds with, now she figures out, John's with him, and John tells her, no, he's here to help. And then the T-1000 shows up, and now we've got that whole chase through the Pescadero hospital that leads to you know, like the elevator scene where it's on top and then you get the knife, you know, it's stabbing through the top and they're trying to, you know, fight their way out. And again, they get out, they steal a cop car. And when they think, you know, they're kind of out of harm's way, you get this T-1000 is still in pursuit and it's running after them and it's jumping on the back of a police car. And again, it's like, how the hell do you get away from this thing? So that was the third kind of like big standout scene, was the Pescadero escape. Freddie, what do you think?
Man. The look on Dr. Silverman's face when T-1000 walks through those bars, it's
Yeah,
just like, it's just pure, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
He's seen this machine 3 times already, by T3, 3 times, and he still denies it. He just runs
Yeah.
away, or just, I don't know. I think he belongs in the hospital because he does not accept the fact that machines are real. It's crazy.
Yeah. Even he sees them firsthand finally, because I don't think, besides the police assault in the first one, it's, I think, the only time that he came across the Terminator in the first one.
Yeah.
Ready?
So this was, I think the nice thing here is we get to see just how much Sarah Connor changed over between the first one and the second one, and the fact that they thought she was crazy enough they had to lock her up, but yet she knew she had to get out, and she clearly just showed just how sharp she really was with being able to just kind of just devise a way of getting out of there. I would like to just kind of tip my hat to the little brief moment of levity when the T-1000s go through the bars and he still holds the gun and is holding them back for like a brief moment where it was just like, it's one of those where you're like, oh, even machines can make mistakes. And he finally just like turns the gun sideways, but still it was just those little things. He's just that you don't even think about.
Right.
I also think, isn't this, if memory serves me correctly, this is also where he actually killed one of the guards that were played by twins.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That was actually a really cool death, just because, you know, you don't really see it coming, but also it's just the fact that I love how he could use his body as a weapon in general. And that in and of itself was kind of neat, but like I said, I thought it was really cool. You got actual twin actors to portray each other, you know, portray the good and evil. And I thought that was a nice little twist to just kind of show you what the T-1000 is going to go through just to get to where he's got to go. And obviously that plays a role later in the movie as well, but it's just a new level of threat that when you first watch that movie, you're not thinking about it at the time until you actually see it happen.
The effect of him rising out of the floor when he's knocking on the door, on that glass door, and then turns around and just sees a full replica of himself standing in front of him. Absolute phenomenal effect, the way that they had him rise out of the floor like that. And there was something else, and now it's got away from me. All right. Moving on. This next one I have, I think, probably one of the best action sequences in the entire movie, and that's the Cyberdyne Systems attack. That's when they show up to Miles Dyson's house and they finally tell him, you know, what he's going to create. And he's in shock and can't believe it. So they go to the Cyberdyne building to essentially destroy all of his work and just kind of try to wipe this out ahead of time. But they show up to the Cyberdyne building. They get in there. That's when police and SWAT show up. So now the cops show up, and I love that line when Sarah's like, you know, oh, the cops are here, or John says the cops are here, and she says, how many? And he goes, all of them, I think. So that's awesome. I love that line, just that little subtle. That's where humor works, where it's not really supposed to be there, but it's there. So that always gives me a little laugh. But then all the police, all the SWAT shows up, and you just get that amazing sequence of Arnold, you know, like basically, I'll handle this, and he just takes his foot and kicks that desk right out of that upper window and steps in, and he's scanning and he's looking at the entire parking lot, and then he's got that minigun, and even the cop is like, that's a damn minigun, and he just unleashes on the entire parking lot. So you've just got all those practical, every car, you know, getting shot up. blown up, all of that stuff. It's a real like highlight, I think, of the entire movie. What else do I have here? Yeah, it's packed with the shootout, the explosions, even the tear gas sequence when he rips off the gas mask and gives them to John and Sarah, and he just walks out, and they're in the lobby, and he just starts taking them out at the knees because John told him don't kill anybody. Just it's easily one of, if not my favorite of the whole movie, because I can only imagine what the budget costs to produce that entire scene.
Okay. Yeah. Couple things when they show up to Miles' house and Sarah Connor shoots him. He comes up with his line, says, "You judge me on things I haven't even done yet." That
Yeah,
was, I love that line.
that's a great line.
And
Great line.
one part during the shootout scene when T-1000 jumps to that helicopter, he's like, "Get out!" And the
Yeah.
dude just jumps out. I'm like, I would never. You're gonna have to kill me. No.
And it's a nice
Yeah.
little reference to the original, because I'm pretty sure that's what Arnold says to when he hijacks the truck in the original. He looks the guy and says, "Get out." Yep. Yeah, I love those little callbacks too. They're in there. They're in there. They're buried a little bit sometimes, but yeah, they're in there.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
But I always loved the explosions. I always loved the big action pieces. But like you said, there was little subtle bits of humor thrown in there and he's like, "Hey, I told you not to shoot anybody." He's like, "He'll live."
Yeah. Yep.
But also like back at Dyson's house, one of the coolest effects I thought was when he literally cuts basically the skin off of his forearm, revealing the endoskeleton he has in there. And I'm just going, that is actually really cool. I mean, I don't know if I'm pretty sure it was a practical effect, but still, that was so cool.
And the look on their face is like, "Oh my God, what is he doing?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're sitting there, basically in horror, like watching this guy, what they think is a man. Kind of, he's cutting his arm wide open, and then he just, like you said, he rips the skin off, and you just have this endoskeleton arm, and he's flexing every joint, the fingers and everything, and it's half covered in blood, and they see this thing as a machine standing in front of them, and the look of pure shock is just, it kind of like reality set in.
What gets me is that he already knew what was going on, because you saw that arm, like, oh shit, we have one back at the lab,
right?
So
yeah. So I think that's the moment he put 2 and 2 together of where that arm came from, and then he realized that shit, we have an arm and a chip, and that's how all of this is going to start.
Well, and it's a nice callback, because if you remember in one, when she crushes the T-800, that's all that was left. So it was actually kind of cool that that James Cameron decided to play off of that and go, okay, we still have this little thing that some people may have not even thought about or noticed that was left over from the first film that we can carry over into the second film and help tell a broader story with it. So that was just a nice, neat little thing there. But yeah, overall, just the action of that entire scene you described was so over the top. And being a kid in the theater watching that for the first time, just going, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
And then he loses his arm again in that machine. He's like, oh, again. Okay.
Yeah. I'm hoping, like Sean mentioned, there's a 35th anniversary coming up, and they've been recently doing like re-releases of stuff in theaters. I would love to see them kind of upgrade T2 a little bit and put it back in theaters, because I don't think back in the day, I know I own the VHS. I don't think I ever saw it in the theater, and that's something I would definitely love to go to like an Atmos theater and check out.
Oh,
nowadays it'd be awesome.
Seeing T2 in theaters would be
oh yeah,
a lot of fun. It's definitely a movie that calls
for an experience right there, man.
And I know we got T3 and T4 on the Salvation on the agenda, but and I've seen both of those movies in theaters, and I got to tell you, I think they get flack because they're not T2 or even T1. It's kind of hard to replicate that. But I got to be honest, like the third and fourth entries in this franchise are, for me anyways, they're really strong.
I mean, I saw T3 at the drive-in when I was 10 years old, and it was awesome for me. I was 10, I mean, it doesn't hold up as much now, but it was great experience watching that in driving.
It's also hard to replace James Cameron, right? Regardless of
Mhm.
what
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
influence he
yeah,
had
it
in
is.
the other films. But like, I'm a Christian Bale guy, so like, I totally bought him as John Connor, or John Connor in Salvation. I know Dean has. I don't think you've seen that one yet, and
Not yet.
I'm dying to rewatch that one because I really like that movie. And really, when that movie came out, not to get too far off topic here, um, everybody always wanted like the give me the T1 prequel, which is technically a sequel, and that does that. That is
Right.
that movie. And I remember seeing it for midnight release and being blown away. And I think the Terminator struggles from after Salvation. Was it Genesis?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that one with the girl from Game of Thrones got killed. I seen it. Wasn't particularly good.
Mhm.
And then is Dark Fate the only other one? Is there only 6 of these things?
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
As of right now.
the
Mhm.
TV show, and there's some video games as well.
I had the T3 game. It
Oh,
was for
nice.
Xbox. That was
Well,
nice.
there's an animated show actually coming out.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
there is.
I don't know if it's called Terminator Zero, or the Terminator is called Terminator Zero, but Timothy Oliphant is doing the voice of the Terminator. I'm pretty excited about that because
Oh, he has some work going on this year because he's also doing the Alien series.
yeah, he's fucking incredible. I love
Yeah.
everything he touches.
I did not know that. I did not know there was an animated series coming out.
Yeah.
All right. Where am I at here? Lost my note. There we go. All right. So after the Cyberdyne attack, let's move on to the helicopter chase. Like Freddie kind of touched on already. The helicopter chase is awesome. Where he jumps the bike onto the helicopter and then gets in, makes the guy jump out, and then he's now pursuing the SWAT truck down the highway in this police helicopter. So I love particularly because I'm pretty sure they pulled this off practically. I have no idea how, but when he flies under the bridge, they actually did that. That's not like any kind of CGI effect or anything. So they actually were able to fly that helicopter under that bridge and clear it without a hitch, as far as I know. So huge props to even being able to pull something like that off. And what I particularly like about that scene is when you look very close, and it's very hard to catch. I didn't catch onto it until recently. Is you've got the T-1000 flying helicopter, and then it's either a third or even fourth arm. There's 2 arms or steering it, and then the third or fourth is shooting out of the helicopter into the back of the truck. Awesome little detail that like I said, it took me years to catch until I finally heard about it. And I was like, does that really? And finally getting like a bigger TV, higher def, and being able to see it. I said, basically like, no shit. Like he grew himself an extra arm to continue this whole pursuit after them. And then while he's in pursuit of them, Arnold slamming on the brakes, the whole entire helicopter hits the back of the truck. It gets destroyed. Pretty sure that's another big practical sequence. So they destroyed a helicopter. Pretty crazy to do that. Destroyed the truck. You've got all the damage on the highway, which leads to Arnold, Sarah, and John. They take over the guy's pickup, and you've got the T-1000 hijacks the nitrous truck, and then they continue that chase all the way down that highway into the steel mill where we finally get the climax. Love that entire helicopter chase scene. It's up there for me, but I think the Cyberdyne attack kind of outweighs it a little bit just because of all the action that takes place. But the helicopter chase, I think, is a very close second. So I will pass it off to you guys. What do you think about the helicopter chase?
Oh man, it felt like a Die Hard scene, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah,
I
you
don't know what else
can't
I
beat
can
a
say
good
about
chase
that.
scene.
It was just a fantastic action scene. Bravo.
I mean, in any movie, any action movie, you have to have like that quintessential chase scene.
Yeah.
Where you have so many near misses, and there's so much action going on. These little details, like you said, that you saw once you finally could see everything on the big screen TV and everything cleaned up. the fact that, I mean, even I didn't even know that there was an extra arm grown for that scene. So that's gonna be a cool thing to watch out for moving forward.
Yeah.
But it's those little things that kind of add to the intensity of the scene where you're just like, oh wow, he's really, laser focused. We knew he was laser focused, but that's on another level. That's just straight up on another level. But it's just the idea that there was multiple phases to it as well. It's not like it was just one and done. It was, hey, we're safe. Oh shit, we're not. We got to keep going. And even though we got a chase scene earlier and we like that in similar fashion, this still was, as we knew with this, we were getting closer to the end, that this was leading to that final confrontation. And it just made it that much more intense and anxiety driven, because you're just wondering, what are they going to do next? How are they going to top everything they've done? Like flying a helicopter underneath the bridge, a passway. It's like, that's insanity to actually have to be able to pull that off.
Before we get too far away from this, and then I'll let you guys finish up, just since it came up and it's not something we've talked about on the channel. Quick details here on that animated series. It's going to come out this year.
Nice.
What is Terminator Zero anime series about? 2022, a future war has raged for decades between the human survivors and the endless army of machines. 1997, the AI known as Skynet gained self-awareness and began its war against humanity. Caught between the future and this past as a soldier sent back in time to change the fate of humanity, she arrives in 1997 to protect a scientist named Malcolm Lee, who works to launch a new AI system designed to compete with Skynet's impending attack on humanity. As Malcolm navigates the moral complexities of his creation, he's hunted by an unrelenting assassin from the future, which forever alters the fate of his 3 children. That assassin being Terminator Zero, who is voiced by Timothy Olyphant.
Nice.
Interesting stuff.
Is this going to be one of those ones on Netflix?
I don't
Probably.
know who has this. Yep, Netflix. Yes.
Oh, wow. All right.
Well, I'm definitely going to be down to watch it, because after how they treated Castlevania, I'm not going to complain about their animation department.
Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to.
Oh, you're good.
No, yeah, that's good stuff. Like I said, I didn't even know that there was any kind of animated series coming out, and now that it's going to Netflix, the accessibility is super easy. So, I'll put that on the to-do list, as I always say, because I have an entire library of stuff that I still need to watch. Just trying to pull my notes back up here. There we go. So we covered the helicopter chase, and that leads us to the finale, which is the steel mill climax. So I know Freddie wanted to talk about this right off the top, so I will mention it. As the nitrous truck flips and they work their way in the steel mill, you've got the T-1000, still in pursuit, and starts walking through the nitrous and slowly starts freezing from the feet up. We finally get the I guess now iconic Hasta La Vista baby with the shot, and explodes the T-1000 to kind of slow him down momentarily. But where are we at here? So, yep, we covered that. The truck flips over. Now they work their way in the steel mill. We get another fight between T-1000 and Arnold. Probably the best fight that they have in the whole movie, because it's really intense. They're slamming each other into equipment, and then Arnold's arm gets stuck in the gear, and you think he's going to be kind of like handicapped or sidelined, for a little bit, which he is. And then that leads to the T-1000 kind of trying to track down Sarah. He shapeshifts again. He replicates Sarah, calls out to John. So again, he's kind of playing cat and mouse and trying to lure John in to finally take out his target. And that leads us to basically the climax, where they're finally up on that on the platform, and you get Sarah stepping out, has the shotgun, fires all the shots, gets him all the way to the edge of that platform, and then of course the trope kicks in where you're one bullet short, you're one shot short. and you think, oh shit, what's going to happen? But then you get that awesome, the slow motion sequence of Arnold coming up the gear with that grenade launcher, and then he fires that shot. Finally, explodes the T-1000, and that's finally what sends it over the edge and into the molten steel below, and that is basically your ending. The crazy effect in that is when he's in that molten steel, and you finally see, he's kind of flailing around. You can tell that this is finally going to probably destroy the T-1000, and you see all the faces of the people that, he changed throughout the movie, and just all of that before he finally just melts into the whole molten lava steel, whatever you want to call it. Finally puts an end to the T-1000, and then that moment kicks in where they finally realize, like, oh, there's one more chip, and Arnold has to destroy himself, but he can't self-terminate. So you get that really, the emotion kicks in with the ending, and you have John crying, and the line makes me laugh every time I hear it now. And he says, "I know now why you cry," and I just it cracks me up every single time I hear it, because you can use that to so much effect nowadays. But yeah, that's your climax. I think it's a very fitting ending to the movie. Kind of brings everything full circle. I think you get a satisfying ending. To an extent, it sucks they had to destroy Arnold in order to try to save everything. Obviously we get T3 later, so I forget how they revisit T3 and bring back the T800 for the third one. I think it's just another basic, like, oh, they had to send someone back through time and something like that. I have to revisit T3, but yeah, the steel mill climax. Freddie, what are you thinking?
Okay, when he freezes up from that gas, and then it happens towards the end.
Mhm.
It shows that he has some weakness.
Yeah.
And I love that. I don't know what else to say. It's one of
There's
the
not.
best endings ever.
Yeah. Yeah,
One of the best endings ever. One of the best climax. One of the best fight scenes. They knocked it out, dude.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The whole effect, that one I don't know how they did with him freezing like that, and you can tell it's him. Like when he kneels down and he's frozen in place, like I think if you look close, you can tell it's Robert Patrick. So if they painted him up and did all that,
also one of the coolest shots in the movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Randy?
So yeah, there's not a ton to say about the climax that you guys haven't already said, but I will say I liked how they seem to give the T-1000 a little more personality too towards the end. Like, him waving his finger at Sarah Connor because when she runs out of ammo, and he's just like, no. So I thought was kind of cool. Also the idea of him actually torturing her to try to lure John out of hiding. But in doing so, he loses his focus, and that's when you see Arnold coming up on the thing and just has that one last grenade launcher shot, and that was such a cool scene. Just the effect of just how he exploded from within, and just I don't know, it's so cool, because I would love this. I wonder if it was a miniature or if it was something, because that would have been really cool to see. It kind of reminded me of something you would see out of The Thing when he exploded out.
Exactly. Yeah. And when he's screeching like an alien or something, that was fun.
Yeah. To me, it's reminiscent of Ed 209 in RoboCop with the whole ground like a lion.
Yeah.
And then when he falls down the stairs and he's squealing because he's kind of helpless at that point.
Love
little stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up. And there you guys have it. That is our pretty in-depth Terminator 2 review. A little more in-depth than I kind of expected, but nonetheless, a lot of ground that we covered. And I think, we hit the nail on the head with a lot of things. We didn't really cover rankings, but I think all of us are going to rank this thing pretty high. I'll just give my overall 9.5 out of 10, a near perfect movie. Freddie?
9.5 out of 10. And that half was John Connor. I can't stand John Connor.
He's got his moments.
His voice, his acting, I just can't stand him. That's it, really.
His hair for whatever reason, his hair bothers the shit out of me with it. It's in his face, and so I don't know why, but every time I watch it, I'm like, fix your fucking hair, dude. Like, come on. Randy, what do you got?
So are we doing halves? Are we doing quarters? I mean,
You throw out there whatever you want. I think I had one specific category rated. I think it was the special effects. I had it like 9.8 out of 10, like near
Right.
perfect.
so looking at it as a whole, yeah, I'll go a little bit lower with a 9.25 only because for me, again, Empire being like the best sequel out there. So to try to, and that would be, that's to me, that's as close to perfect as you're going to get for a movie like that. So especially in the sci-fi genre. So yeah, I would give it the 9.25 just because it's like so close. There's only little things that they could have cleaned up that I'm sure, like a 4K release or, especially, or an anniversary edition that is going to come out. They'll clean it up. It'll, those little things will be cleaned up nicely. But yeah, it's such a fun ride. It's like, if you haven't seen it, you kind of just look at people, how the hell have you never seen this movie?
Yeah.
It's one of those types of movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. All right. Good stuff, guys.
I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. I know that's the lowest of the bunch, but I'm T1 over T2. By the way, I didn't hear many people mention it. I might have missed it. The soundtrack for this movie is fucking fantastic.
I knew we missed something.
Sports Girl, good. Guns N' Roses, many others that happen even for little bits of the movie. My God, James Cameron killed it with his selections.
Yeah, this is 1990, so you've got a decade of music, and
also the T1000 basically has its own thing.
Yeah, there's a really good documentary all about T2 on YouTube that you can pull up, and it breaks down some of the things that I mentioned as far as like Robert Patrick's training, and certain not only sound effects but also music that fits certain scenes and certain parts. The one example I remember is with the twins in Pescadero. When the security guard knocks on the glass, you hear it in one tone, and then when Robert Patrick shapeshifts into him and kills him, and then he goes up to the glass and knocks on it, the sound is completely different. Like it has a more like metal echo to it. So it's like those are little details that, like, unless you know about them or you're looking for them, like you'll pick up on them. But like there's a ton of that throughout the whole thing. So it's just a level of detail that you don't see, I don't think, nowadays.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that is going to do it for our show tonight. It was a longer one, but we knew it would be. It was a roundtable of guests, and we touched on so much tonight. And because we had to push the show back a couple of times, more news came out. But I had a lot of fun talking about a lot of things. Also, before we get off the air, for video game fans, obviously Blumhouse announced their first video game. I know some people are over the moon about it. I'm highly skeptical about it. And then there's a new entry into the Gears of War franchise for people that like that sort of thing. They're going to do a prequel to the first game, which I'm absolutely over the moon about.
Oh, Black Ops 6 is coming out soon, too.
Black Ops 6, too. Yeah, so lots going on in gaming right now. More Star Wars Outlaws stuff, which we'll cover in like 9 weeks' time or whatever. But a lot to get to in a very short amount of time. Just want to mention again, big thanks to our channel sponsors, Storytime Spectacular, Backtrack Cinema, Colleague Nation, Matt and Chris. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here. To all of our patrons who take the time and honestly make the commitment to spend their hard-earned money on supporting this channel, it really is appreciated. And then pieces of content we got coming tomorrow night. Star Wars: The Acolyte, Episode 3. We're going to review it right here in all of its spoiler glory. And then Sunday and Monday, we got House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 1. Check it out. If you've never watched it, I don't believe there's a better shot show in TV ever. Just fantastic what they do with the cinematography on that stuff. We'll go around the table. Dean, where can everybody find you at?
You guys can most easily find me here weekly with Sean whenever we have episodes. Recently it's been a little bit tough, but I think we're close to getting back on track now. So look for more weekly and more consistency coming up. We've had a little bit of a rough time in the past few weeks, for Sean and even myself. My work schedule's picked up pretty hectic, but that will slow down momentarily. So you guys can find me here weekly with Sean on Tonight in Haddonfield, over on Facebook at Dean Renner, and in the Legacy of Halloween Facebook group at 295,000 members now. So we are approaching 300 a lot quicker than I thought. So yep, look us up on Facebook. You guys can message me with any questions, comments, and concerns. And weekly here with Sean on Tonight in Haddonfield.
Freddie, thanks for doing this tonight, man. It was a pleasure to have you. Great insight. Where can everybody find you at? What do you got going on? Is there anything you want to plug?
Well, right now, I'm modding, the Legacy of Halloween, and right now I started up a new group called the Grindhouse Drive-In,
Nice.
based on grindhouse exploitation, B horror. So we just started, so it's pretty small, and we're trying to get it up there. So come join us.
Yeah.
You might have shared it already. It's hard to keep up with the chat sometimes, but if you haven't put that in our group chat, I'd love to share it around and get people out there. Great name, by the way. Love it.
Thank you.
Randy, what about you, man? I mentioned some of what we got coming up, but where can everybody find you at?
Well, on X, it's at Giggity Giles. I don't post but so much, but when I do, it's usually because I'm pissed off at something. Usually video game related. But yeah, obviously weekly, Legacy of Star Wars. Starting next week, I'll be helping you guys out with Legacy of Westeros, doing the reviews with House of the Dragon. And from time to time, you'll find me here weekly.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And then next week, Tonight in Haddonfield, I think right now the tentative plan is we're going to tackle a Lost Halloween sequence taking shape too. And when we figure out which one, we'll post it on socials so that you can either read or listen up on it as well and come review it with us. So be on the lookout for that. But until then, don't forget, the boogeyman is in fact coming.